All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're unpacking a truly masterful piece of foundational strategy, The Signal and the Noise by Nate Silver. Now, right off the bat, I gotta tell you, this isn't just some textbook about data, and it's definitely not a crystal ball for guessing the future. Honestly, it's more like a clinical mirror for your own ego. Here at UpGoWise, we consider the signal and the noise absolutely core to your practice. Why? Because judgment, well, it's never really private, is it? It leaks into every choice you make, your team dynamics, your finances, your entire identity. Nate Silver doesn't just hand us a predictive model. He hands us a mirror with numbers on it. And what's the very first thing that mirror shows us? It's not the future. It's our own desperate hunger to just be right. This signal is the truth. That's the core idea. But finding that truth, it's not just a math problem, and it's not just about staring at spreadsheets until your eyes cross. In fact, our intense craving to be right often completely blocks our ability to actually see the truth. We kind of confuse confidence with clarity. We desperately look for this final validating verdict way before we've actually earned a working model of reality. And you know what that does? It creates this hidden wound in our judgment. The literal second we make a call, our mind just kicks into overdrive, defending its very first reading of reality and totally blocking out the actual signal. So think about this. What if your certainty isn't actually a signal at all, but just self-protection? Here's the brutal reality we all have to face. That proud habit you have of trusting your own sharp judgment, it actually becomes the exact mechanism protecting your ego from fresh evidence. You don't just misread the world, you're literally training your nerves to reject correction. Think about it. Your chest tightens, your jaw sets. A brand new fact enters the room, and your body treats it like a personal insult. A mind that can't weigh doubt just turns knowledge into heavy armor. So as we go through today's explainer, keep this one question open. What part of your certainty is actually doing useful work? We really have two distinct ways to stand in front of uncertainty. On one side, we have verdict thinking. This is a mind hunting for the final, unmovable answer. It craves status. The data might arrive late, but the story arrives first. And then your invisible inner critic steps up and whispers, decide now. Look strong. Don't wobble. Do not let them see you sweat. But then on the other side, we have update thinking. This mind is totally different. It builds a living estimate. See, the first mind wants to be a judge, seeking a verdict just to protect its own image. But that second mind, it wants genuine contact with reality. Like the book says, the noise is what distracts us from the truth. When we get trapped in verdict thinking, the real pain is that our judgment turns into this incredibly fragile performance of certainty. You aren't actually trying to see clearly anymore. You're just trying not to feel small in front of your peers, or, let's be real, in front of your own expectations. And that emotional defense, wow, that is the loudest, most distracting noise of all. It's not statistical noise in a spreadsheet, it's psychological noise right there in your own head. This is exactly why the signal and the noise cuts way deeper than just the mechanics of making predictions. It introduces this highly intimate, absolutely critical concept called calibration. Calibration is basically the match between your confidence and your accuracy. It means your inner force has to mathematically match the outer facts. If you feel, say, 90% sure about a strategic move, reality should agree with you 90 times out of 100. If it doesn't, your certainty isn't some strategic superpower. It's just your ego swelling up. To really get a feel for this, picture a tense strategy meeting. You've been there, right? A market shifts, maybe a customer signal weakens, and a team member points out a totally valid risk. But then someone influential chimes in and says, I just know this is going to work. Immediately, the room gets incredibly still. The body language shifts, spines stiffen up. A simple forecast has just devolved into a loyalty test. That right there, that is pure noise. And it's not because the person speaking is foolish. It's because the social pressure in that room is incredibly loud. Status is loud. Fear is loud. Past effort is loud. The desperate need to be seen as decisive is so loud. And the quiet, necessary signal, it just gets completely buried under all of it. So we have to ask ourselves, are we actually reading the world? Or are we just protecting a story? The very first step to repairing our wounded judgment isn't about gathering more data. It's about adopting a much cleaner, humbler posture. We have to be willing to state our base rates and our ranges of probability totally openly. We literally have to ask this crucial question before the room hardens, before the ego takes the wheel and locks us into a fantasy that's wearing the mask of insight. There's a brutal paradigm shift we have to make here. The old way relies on seeing more, this idea that really smart people make predictions just by gathering an overwhelming mountain of facts. But seeing more can actually poison you. More charts can feed the exact same biases. More facts can just become a thicker, heavier costume. The refined paradigm, however, requires weighing better. Wise people predict by meticulously weighing the evidence they already have. They adjust their confidence up or down based on strict discipline, not on emotion. Let's visualize how this actually works. Picture an astronomer working way past midnight. The observatory dome is open, the air is freezing cold, and her telescope is gathering this incredibly weak light from some distant star. One frame she captures is just static. Another is totally blurred from heat and dust. But the astronomer doesn't just shout at the sky in frustration. No, she carefully stacks the frames. She meticulously subtracts the noise. And she waits for a tiny, almost invisible dip in brightness that reveals a whole new planet. This is our primary analogy. You see, a signal rarely arrives as some dramatic, undeniable sign. It usually arrives when you patiently average down the noise until the hidden truth slowly, finally, becomes visible. True self-mastery isn't about completely conquering doubt. It's about the rigorous training of keeping contact with reality. At UpGoWise, we teach that you actually become refined when your mind can update its beliefs without feeling humiliated. And to do that, you always have to start right here, with the base rate, the pattern across similar cases. Before you personalize a decision, before you let all your unique little details take over, you have to look objectively at what typically happens in situations exactly like yours. But let's be real for a second. Looking at a base rate can feel kind of insulting, can it? It coldly tells you that your story isn't sovereign. Your brilliant startup idea, your new life habit, your big career bet, each of those belongs to a broad class of typical cases, long before it belongs to you. Resisting that base rate, that is pure ego defense. It hurts to accept it because our judgment desperately loves to feel like the exception. We have to force a shift to what we call the outside view, the view from the class of similar events. The old paradigm says, my case is special, so the historical pattern has to bow to me. But the outside view says, no, the historical pattern speaks first, and only then does my specific evidence get a turn. Forcing the pattern to speak first is the exact thing that stops our fear from posing as intellectual depth. It's how you actually maintain your dignity under pressure, anchoring yourself firmly in reality before the inside story gets a little too seductive. All right, this brings us to a major turn in our explainer. We have to make this brutal, absolutely necessary upgrade from defending our static beliefs to exposing our odds. And that brings us to the Bayesian update, literally revising a belief after encountering new evidence. You need to stop asking yourself, what do I believe, and start asking, what odds am I living by? Beliefs can easily hide in the shadows and flatter your identity, but odds expose you. Beliefs sound noble, sure, but odds bring you crashing right back down to earth and make you answerable to the actual data. There's this great saying, the fox knows many little things. Embracing that mindset completely relieves the invisible critic inside our heads. A fox survives contact with reality by holding on to many small clues and constantly changing direction based on new inputs. When you view your own judgment this way, a forecast is no longer a throne that you have to defend to the death. It's just a draft. It can be marked up by reality, it can be improved, and there is absolutely no shame in that. So here is a rigorous 4-step practice you can execute before making any significant choice. Step 1, write down the base rate. Step 2, note your strongest signal. Step 3, isolate the loudest noise, and spoiler alert, that's usually your own ego or some office politics. Step 4, set an update trigger. That's the exact condition that will force you to change your mind. And do this quietly. No grand speeches, no theatrical presentations. Just write the lines down and let that physical, emotional rush of false certainty completely pass. Because ultimately, the signal and the noise is advocating for doubt with a job. Doubt that tests you. Doubt that cleans. Doubt that prevents your judgment from turning into this rigid costume. Now, obviously, some certainty is absolutely necessary to protect action. You need enough confidence to actually move forward. But false certainty, that turns your mind into a closed-off room. You need to keep the door propped open, actively filtering out your ego so you can lock on to the true signal. The thing is, we're filtering so much more than just the information out there in the world. We are filtering ourselves. And honestly, this is the deepest insight of the entire explainer. Every forecast you make tests exactly who you become when reality disagrees with you. Think about it. Do you tighten up? Do you attack the data? Or do you calmly revise? The world is going to stay noisy. Markets will shift, the experts will miss the mark. Your task isn't to somehow escape the noise, it's to build a cleaner instrument. Attention paired with humility, confidence that comes with a hinge. So, I'm going to leave you with this final concluding question to sit with. Where have you mistaken the feeling of judgment for the actual work of judgment? The Signal and the Noise by Nate Silver belongs in any serious practice of self-mastery because it does one crucial thing. It makes certainty accountable. So write your forecast, name the noise, deep dive the philosophy at upgowise.com. Then return to your practice with a mind that can bend before it breaks. Choose the truer signal.